This podcast contains paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast, where I discuss how you can grow your business by the bootstraps. This applies to everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. That includes bootstrappers just starting out, established business owners, and business leaders. My goal is to help you grow both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Isaiah O'Connor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com, by far my favorite sponsor. And, well, why are they my favorite? I learned a ton of stuff from listening to audiobooks. I've had Audible for probably around a decade at least now, well over 100 books. They're amazing, especially if you're busy, you got kids, you don't have a lot of time, and if you're an entrepreneur and or a leader or a wannabe entrepreneur, odds are you don't have a lot of extra time to sit down and read. And so it's very nice to have Audible. Their player is amazing. You can skip back if you don't catch something 30 seconds, very easy. You can skip forward. It saves your location from device to device. It's really great. You can bookmark things. Really handy. Great Audible book player. I've listened to other audiobooks, and I get really annoyed when I can't just skip back, skip forward, pause, bookmark. So Audible's great for that. They have a great amount of content. They have college courses that you can take, college level, not college courses, but college level. They have books, of course. They have podcasts. They're really amazing. And the book that I recommend today, again, is Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership. It's a great book. It's really helped me with building my business. It's helped me become a better leader. And it's just overall a great book if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader. And I highly, highly recommend it. And a lot of today's talk has been somewhat inspired by Dave Ramsey and that book, EntreLeadership. And it's really nice if you can get EntreLeadership read by Dave Ramsey, which is very nice. That's my favorite, read by the author. When you can get them, it's the best way to hear a book. You can hear the passion in the author's voice. You can hear the emphasis on the things that they find the most important. And it's really great. So check out EntreLeadership over on audible.com/bootstrap, bootstrap with a capital B. You can get a free 30-day trial. You can get EntreLeadership for free. You get one free book, 2 free Audible originals, and an ability to listen to multiple titles, books, etc. that they have on their listening stream that you can get that comes with it. It's amazing. Go check it out, audible.com/bootstrap with a capital B. It's great. Check it out. Now let's get into this. So today I'm going to be talking about your employees and their personality types, your personality type, personality test, and the like. And I know this is somewhat a controversial subject, but knowing me, if you've listened for any length of time, I'm not extreme. I don't take the extremes of either side, and I do see that understanding your employees and their personalities and their personality types can be very, very important and useful. But on the flip side, I think you go overboard on both directions with this. So let's jump into this. Let's get into this. Now, from my research and from what I've experienced growing up, there's several different personality types. There's different personality tests. Then there's kind of the goofy ones you can take online just because you're bored. You find them on Facebook, etc. Yeah, those are funny. Whatever. But not important. The two of the biggest ones that I've seen are the Myers-Briggs and the DISC, D-I-S-C, personality test. Now, I've taken both of those in the past at different times in my life. And I've seen another personality test, which I don't even remember what it was called, but that's where we get the phlegmatic and melancholy and all these different personality types out as well. And so they're out there. There's these tests. Now, the contrary comes up with, are they accurate? Are they scientific? Are they not scientific? Are they prone to bias? Can you change the results of the test if you know what the person's looking for? Can you fool the test, as it were? Can you beat them? If you don't beat them, if you take them normally, is there confirmation bias in there? So you see your personality in there so that it agrees with who you are or not. I mean, there's a lot of controversy if they're even accurate or scientific or anything along those lines because of the nature of the test. And quite honestly, being a psychological test, this is one where it's really kind of difficult to exactly come up with a hard physical test to see if this is accurate or not. Now, there is something to say on the way the test is developed, on the questions asked, on the amount of answers you can give. I mean, there is some good scientific way to kind of dial things in. There are a lot of tests in psychology. Psychologists give patients tests. There are IQ tests, for example. There are different tests that can delve down and dig in and get information out about a person. Sure, no problem. Now, here's the two extremes I think that need to be avoided. I read an article in the New York Times that came out in 2019 where the author basically called it astrology for the workplace. Where in their mind that all these different personality tests with all their different codes and catchphrases, and once you understand the way the results and what the results mean, people kind of get their own little group speak going on, and they have this kind of insider speak. Oh, are you an I? Are you an INFP? Are you a blue? Are you red, blue, yellow, color test? Yeah, etc. So there's some of that where it becomes part of the corporate identity, corporate language, corporate culture. And so that is a test that, and this, according to this article, they're not scientific, they're not helpful, and people put too much weight on the test so that they don't stop to look at the actual individual and see who they really are beyond the test. They use it to kind of mask people and either place them or write them off right off the bat without actually taking the time to get to know the person as an individual. And in larger corporations, this could actually backfire and make a person more of a number and a machine than a person. So, yeah, this is one extreme, and I understand that not a lot of these tests have had external third-party confirmation, uh, separate peer-reviewed studies on them, etc. It all depends. And I've seen a lot of these tests, taken a lot of these different tests, etc. And I understand it. And a lot of these tests you have to pay to get them assessed and evaluated. So yeah, there are people making money on these tests. So that's another thing to consider. Now, I'm not against anyone selling something, a product or a service, if they're providing value and it's real value and not a scam. I have no problems with that. And I don't believe people are scamming you just because they're selling something either. Matter of fact, someone I know, I was talking about Dave Ramsey, and they asked me, well, do they sell books and tapes? I'm like, yeah. They said, oh, well, they're a scam. And that was writing him off without looking. But this person, I understand where he was coming from because there's a lot of get rich quick scams. A lot of people selling books and tapes online at night on late night TV. Buy my book, get rich quick. Look at me, I got rich quick by getting to buy my book about how to get rich quick while I took your money and ran. Yeah, so I understand that principle, that concept. However, that's not always the case, although often is. Dave Ramsey does sell books. He does sell, well, not tapes anymore, but he does sell information. That's what he sells: information, books, tapes. But he's also a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. He's been on TV. He gives free advice. He helps people out for free all the time. And he's a well-respected person. Well, people disagree with him, of course. You don't get that big. I think he has like 5 million plus listeners a day on his radio show. He's pretty huge, massive influence, great guy. And he does give information out. Of course, you can sell information. But I digress. So let's jump back into the whole personality test. Are they a scam? Are there some personality tests that are scams? Yes, of course. I see them. A lot of them are just, oh, take this personality test for free, and at the very end, oh, if you want more details, pay us. Scam. Yeah, that's usually a scam. Now, hiring a professional, give the test, who knows how to read the results and explain the results, that I don't think is a scam. Now, of the few out there that are very popular in the corporate world, there's the Myers-Briggs and the DISC personality test. I do believe that the DISC is a better personality test and more accurate, and from what I've seen from my personal life versus what the Myers-Briggs test is, I think the DISC is more scientific, more accurate, and more reliable. My opinion. Oh, by the way, before I forget, the other extreme to these personality tests is, well, saying they're just astrology, that they're just a scam, they're all fraud, and there's nothing useful to be done with this. The other side, which the person in the New York Times article made a great point of, it becomes the point of you rely solely on the test and not actually looking at the person. So that's kind of important. Now, I'll go into what I think is the best use of this and why I think of these DISC personality test is the best, and that is this. Personality tests are a tool that, if used correctly, can be helpful. If used incorrectly, can be detrimental, like any other tool. Here I am, down the middle again. Are there tests that are scammy and more or less astrology and just hot words, catchphrases, buzzwords? Yeah, of course. Now, a good solid personality test, such as the DISC, and I'll explain why I prefer that one, can give you an insight into the person about who they are, how they interact, how they behave, how to motivate them, what motivates them, what de-incentivizes them, how they work with others, and it gives you a basic idea of how they'll interact with the world around them. That's about it. It gives you a basic idea. It's not 100% perfect. It's not going to tell you everything you need to know about that person, but it just gives you an idea. And in my mind, this is information you can get just by watching the person after some time. Anyway, you don't need to give a personality test to figure out a person's personality. What a personality test, in my opinion, is it defines for you who they are fairly quickly, and it just gives you kind of a concrete baseline to kind of understand the behavior. What do I mean by that? Let's see if I can come up with a good way to explain this. I think, in a way, it's kind of like a personality dictionary. You may know the word, you might understand the word to some degree, but to really understand the word and understand all the meanings of a word and a little bit more detail, you look it up in a dictionary. And for me, that's all a personality test really is it gives you the words to describe that person's personality. It gives you a baseline of understanding some more of the details of the personality. It's not a magic astrology thing. It's not a, oh, this person is definitely like this and they will definitely behave in this way. No, but it's an indicator. It gives you a key. It gives you a help, an assessment. of that person's personality. Should you use it in hiring? I personally don't. Dave Ramsey does. Many other places do use it in hiring. Should you apply personality tests to your employees? Sure, if you got the money for it. I don't think it's a bad thing to have to understand your employees' personality types. That's fine. However, I do believe that if you can't afford it, that's not a big deal. One thing that is important is to perhaps research different personality types, different features of different personalities based on different tests, and read up on the descriptions of the personality types. Because if you can understand personality types in general, then you can apply your observations of people. You can understand basically what their personality type is by doing general observation, seeing how they interact, seeing how they talk. You just can pick it up. And that's fine. You don't need to have a test. Tests make it a little bit easier, make it a little bit quicker, understand people very quickly. Sure, no problem. However, you don't need them. You can learn by observing. But it's helpful to have a baseline description so you can put words to what you see. Very helpful. Now, let's go back into the accuracy of the test. The Myers-Briggs test, I didn't like. I thought it was awful, quite honestly. And it makes sense because whenever you're trying to get a spread of information, a binary questions, yes or no, is a horrible way to go. When I was working with the youth camps with Youth with Mission years ago, we put together a questionnaire asking them what they thought of the youth camp. How did they like the food? How did they like the service? How did they like the training? How did they like the staff? These types of questions, a little bit more in detail. And when we made the form up, our leaders said you need to have at least 5 points of answer, i.e., every answer needed a scale of at least 1 to 5, or at better, 1 to 10, of do you agree or do you disagree? And this would give someone a range of answers, because when you have a range, a person doesn't feel boxed in with a yes or no. For example, with food. If you say a person says the camp food was good, agree or disagree. And they might not like the camp food nearly as good as their mom is cooking or their grandma's cooking, because we all know your mom's or your grandma's cooking cannot be beat. We all know that. That's just kind of a rule. And so they might say the food was not good in comparison to their grandma's cooking. And so they'll answer, if you just give them a yes or no choice, they'll say no because it wasn't as good as their mama's cooking, which then gives you the result of, oh no, they hated my food. Now, if you give them a scale of, say, 1 to 5 at least, they might rate it a 4. Nothing beats mama's cooking, but this is really good food. Or a 3. 3, yeah, it was average, it was okay, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. So what you're looking for is an overall average of 3 plus answers, and that will let you know that the kids liked your food or not. This is important because camp food is not usually something to write home about unless it's really bad. And if most people say, when it comes to food, just this example, if more people say 3 plus, then you know that you're doing great with the food and keep doing what you're doing because they like it, because it's not horrible, it's not bad, it's good or great in their opinion, and they're not going to complain about it, and you're hitting the right zone. If it's 3 and less or 2 and less, again, then you know it's bad and you need to correct it, because then you're doing something wrong, because this is the bad food kids write home about because it's really bad. So a simple yes no question, do you like the food, yes or no, is going to give you a skewed result. And that's my biggest problem with the Myers-Briggs test is, and it's been a while since I took it, most of their questions were like, well, I feel like this or I feel like this. And me, the personality I am, for most of those questions were both. Yes, I feel both ways. And that really skews the test because you can't answer on a scale between those two to say, well, yeah, 5. Okay, both of those in between, right between those two, I feel that way. The Myers-Briggs test, I went and looked it up again because it's been a few years, and they do have a kind of a spread, but the questions are kind of binary, so that even the middle question comes out as weird. For example, here's an actual example question. It says, when considering a situation, you pay more attention to the current situation and less to a possible sequence of events. Capital yes, small yes, uncertain no, and capital no. So 1 to 5 points there. 1 yes, 5 no, and 3 points in between. Problem with that question is for me, I am absolutely certain about what I would do on that question, because even though they gave a 5-point spread to kind of mark, they ask a lot of these questions, which are kind of binary questions in and of themselves. So instead of saying, do you pay a lot of attention to the current situation? Yes or no? That'd be a good question. But when they throw in the binary question of less than to possible sequence of events, the answer is not that I'm uncertain. The problem is, in different situations, I assess this current situation, and then I also tend to assess what that situation can lead to. I play chess, for example, and if you're a chess player and you play a lot of chess, you need to assess the current situation, and you need to be able to assess the further outcome of further events. So on that question, I would be somewhere in the middle, equally. Try to pay attention to both equally, maybe a little one more than the other, but I got a lot of those questions and I just froze up because writing uncertain right down the middle is not a good answer, because I'm certain I try to do both. It's something very important to me to do both equally high, because if you broke that question up into two pieces, when considering a situation, do you pay attention to the current situation? Yes, I'd say yes, I do. Do you pay attention to this possible sequence of events? I would also say yes. That's a question I would say yes to on both ends. But when you say one, by saying yes to one, you say no to the other. And picking uncertain, well, I'm certain I would pay attention to both. I am absolutely certain. Drove me nuts. Test was way off on me. Didn't like it. I found that the disc test questions were a lot more simple. They weren't giving you a binary choice and like that. A lot more accurate, a lot more well put together. The personality descriptions were a lot more accurate and seemed to be a lot more scientific, better thought out. And then when I took it, we took it in the leadership course I did years ago. And after we took the test, we all got our results back, and they were talking about the results and stuff. They did a little exercise with us to kind of show us how accurate the test was. And so we all went and did the test, and they looked at it and they put us in these little groups. And being a Christian leadership organization, the goal was, okay, all you do is you sit down and you create the perfect church. For you guys all sit down and talk about what type of church would be your perfect type of church. And so everyone started writing down what type of church they would be, what the leadership structure would be, what they thought was the best building, having a lot of fun with it, people kind of being goofy, and everything else. And a lot of the team realized that what they had actually done is put everyone in groups according to their personality types. All the people that were very detail oriented were in the one group. Everyone who was not as detail oriented, more social, were in another group, etc. And we pretty quickly figured that out and tried to play the game the system, which was really funny. What we didn't realize was it wasn't the perfect church that we came up with. That was the point. Although that did indicate some of us, but some of us were like the very detailed oriented group. They're the ones I just remembered most because they were funniest. Purposely tried to make the most outgoing church as possible to try to show that they weren't really detailed oriented, but they're very detailed about being not detailed oriented. It was really funny. So they said our perfect church would be a pastor wearing a Hawaiian t-shirt instead of a suit and tie because we're detailed. So we're going to go with the opposite of a detail. Yeah, it was funny. But the thing is, the staff were walking around observing the behavior of each group. And each group in their personality types behaved, by and large, according to the personality types. Detailed oriented one, the very first thing they did is there was this little tiny black spot of dirt or whatever that got stuck on their little poster board that they were writing out the stuff on. Now we're all 20-something-year-olds, just to give you an idea of the level of maturity. So we're all kind of goofing off a bit. Between 18 and 24 years old was the group age. And they had to laugh because even the detail-oriented who were trying not to be detail-oriented, they spent a good 5 minutes trying to get rid of the white little black speck on there, and they got obsessed with the black speck because they were so detail-oriented that one black speck right in the middle of their poster board was driving them all crazy. And then the people that were more extroverted were not focused so much on writing things, they were talking too much. And then the group that had the more adaptive personalities that were just kind of really laid back and chilled were like, hey, what do you want? This? Okay, that works. And they weren't arguing or fighting or, each group did behave a lot like the test indicated. So the test is, like I said, more of a filter. It kind of, you can filter out people by personality type. You can actually see it. Now, one of the things that New York Times article I read complained about was it breaks people down into groups and separates them out. Well, yeah, it can do that. You can separate out people by personality traits. You can, sure. Now, that's fine. I mean, people these days, people do try to separate people down to every different type of characteristic, breaking down by group, this group, that group, every other group, which is really funny because the New York Times has done this quite a lot, breaking down people by group, focusing on separate groups. Okay, fine, whatever. But that's not the point. The point isn't to break people type by groups. The point is to understand how people interact with other people in their same group and other people outside their same group. Again, it should be used as a baseline just to give you an idea to help you as a tool, not go crazy. And it was very clear that with these personality tests, the different personality types, yeah, you looked at them, and the people that were said to be a lot more extroverted were a lot more extroverted. I mean, they just were. Did it make them so? No. Was it any coincidence that the extroverted types were, well, being more extroverted? No. Did we, at this point in the time, did we all kind of know this about each other? Yeah, pretty much. We had been together at this point something like, it was a 12-week course, 3 months. We had already been together around 2 months at this point, every single day, almost every single waking moment together. So we all knew this about each other. It didn't surprise us when the guy who was always talking, dancing, and wild and outgoing and kind of life of the party guy took the personality test, and wow, lo and behold, he was an extrovert, outgoing on the test. No surprise, no shock. Some of the most detail-oriented people got the detail-oriented personality type. Yeah, again, we weren't surprised. the guy who had a mild case of OCD wound up on the detailed chart. No surprise. Yeah, we got it. Again, this was not some magic wand thing and oh boy, this is a surprise. No, they were very, very accurate. And matter of fact, I took the one test twice. And one of the things about the test is they do measure your current levels of stress. And that was interesting because when I took it the first time and when I took it the second time, my stress levels were totally different. And the first time it says, okay, you have no stress, which means one of two things. Either you have no stress in your life, A, or B, you are compartmentalizing your stress really badly and you just are pretending it doesn't exist. And that's what the professionals who went over the test results with me, sat down and talked to me, said. And I said, actually, yeah, I am very stressed lately, highly stressed, but I don't let it out on other people and I keep it in and I hide it and I compartmentalize it. And it really made me kind of try to work on it and deal with my stress. So, yeah, that was very accurate. And then about a year later, they saw the test results and they said, well, these results indicate that you may have just lost faith or trust in somebody or something big time because something's changed here. And it's very evident by the way you answer these questions. Something's changed. And I had just broken up. Actually, my first girlfriend just dumped me like the day before, and I was very, very upset about it and didn't trust her or women in general being close again. It actually picked up what was going on with me very clearly. Again, if you knew me anyway outside of the test, you could probably figure it out. If you didn't know me all that well, I hid a lot of this stuff quite well, so people didn't quite follow. But this test, again, just shows what's going on with a person. It's not magic. It's not voodoo. Maybe not completely scientific. But as long as a person's honest about the test, then it can just give you a read on where they are and who they are and what they're going through. It just gives you a read. That's it. It's quite honestly, it's more like a thermometer. Yeah, you can stick your hand in the water, know it's warm. Thermometer just says, oh yeah, it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever. That's it. It just gives you a little bit of a read, a little bit more details on the person. And that's how it should be used. Now, after taking these tests, I do believe if you're going to give these tests, I personally believe that you should give it to a person after they're hired, not before. Because a person after they're hired, it might help you place them correctly. And if you need to move them into a different department or position, it might help you do that. Or if you have a person who's a great person, a great hire, who's doing a great job, but they're still struggling, but they're a nice guy, and you hired them and you know they're a great person, they're just struggling with their job, and you talk to them, you don't see other circumstances why they're struggling, you give them this test, and it might make you realize that, well, they're a very outgoing person that is, and you already knew that, but it might make you realize, oh, great, they're a very outgoing person. They like being around people. They're great with their coworkers and everything else, and they're working in accounting, and they're in an office by themselves all day, locked in a room. Maybe being an accountant's not a great idea for them, even though they're good at math. I've talked about this before. Just because you're good at math doesn't mean you should be an accountant. And maybe they're a great person, and you might be able to find out they're a great salesman too, and move their department. Just so you can understand that maybe they're not in the right position. But having it as not a part of the job interview makes it more accurate, in my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion. Because if you're taking a personality test and you're doing it trying to get a job, and you know what these questions are leading to, you can fudge it. You can make yourself sound more personable, more honest, etc. You definitely can fake the test if you know what it's asking for You can read what type of these questions, what type of answers they're looking for. Yeah, you can fake the results. So yeah, you don't want people to be doing that. But again, as a tool, after they're hired, as a tool to see how your teams work better, sure. As a tool, it's great. Don't make it the end all and be all. Don't be walking around with, oh, well, we're all this and that and this and that, and you're an ICSINJPK, purple, red, green color, whatever. Yeah, of course, people will talk about it a little bit, but you should give it, use it, analyze it, but then don't talk about it. Just use it as a tool. Don't make it a big deal. Have a good understanding of this type of person, what type of positions and roles they would feel better in your organization, and use it in that respect. Yeah, it's just a tool. You should use it like that. Don't make it a huge thing. Just understand that people act differently. And then we'll wrap up with this story. After I took this test and I joined the staff, because all the staff were required to take this test, so I joined staff, and we had what we called a work duty. And it was when you're on staff or when you're doing one of these schools, the hour between, I think it's like 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, 2 hours, you had a work duty where to keep the cost down and also to further your education in a way. It was part of the program. You had to go and help maintain the building, uh, make the food, fix the garage, or fix the cars in the garage, clean up, etc. You had these little work details that you had to do for a couple hours. And they tried to stick you in the place that you're best. For example, people who loved cars or mechanics had a hobby in mechanics were usually put on mechanic duty to fix the cars, of course. People who like to cook or cooks, had interest in cooking, were put in the kitchen, etc. And so I had a work duty detail as a staff member. I had two guys, Doug and Andrew, and they came to work with me, and I was in charge of the garage. I was in charge of the inventory in the garage, cleaning up the garage, organizing it. Took me 3 or 4 months solid to organize and clean up all the stuff that was in that garage. It was a mess. There was no inventory system. Every nut and bolt and nail were all in like one giant bucket, not by size. It was a mess, big mess. So my job was to clean it and organize it, and I got these two guys to help me. And I soon picked up on their different personalities. They're both great guys, both hard workers, but their personality types, the way they process and the way they worked was so different, completely different. And I started realizing something, that I need to modify the way I was instructing and giving them instructions to fit their personality types. And I kind of got to read. They didn't take the personality test, by the way. They had not taken the personality test. I had, and it just made me more aware of different personality types. And so I took that awareness and utilized it in the situation. Now, it's been 20 years now since, so I don't remember who was exactly who. I do believe it was Doug, was the more outgoing type and less detail-oriented type. And Andrew was the more introverted and more detailed type. And both were really hardworking, great guys. The only thing was that if I gave instructions to Doug, like I gave instructions to Andrew, he would freeze up. And then if I gave instructions to Andrew, like I gave instructions to Doug, he would freeze up. And they meant well, but they would just freeze up. What was the big difference? Well, Doug was more of a free spirit. He's more outgoing, more bouncy, as it were. And if you gave him a very detailed instruction list, he would freak out and be afraid he wasn't doing it right. So, as an example, say I gave him the job of taking these tools and putting them in the toolbox and organizing it by the tool type. So all the screwdrivers in this one, all the hammers in this one, all the wrenches in this one, all the Allen wrenches in this one. Organize it. Boom. And that's the job. So if I told him, okay, what I want you to do is put all the Allen wrenches in this drawer, all the Phillips in this drawer, all the flatheads in this drawer, all the hammers in this drawer, and gave him every piece of detailed instruction, he would freeze up and be afraid he didn't do it. I'd come back like 10 minutes later and he still hadn't put one thing away. And I'd ask what's going on. It's like, oh, I'm trying to work. I'm worried I'm not doing it right. Was it this drawer? And he'd freeze up. So with him, I tried to give him the jobs that weren't important how they were done, just that they got done. And so I would say, or give him the same job, and if it didn't care how it got done, I would say, hey, take these tools, organize them by tool type in the toolbox. What do you want where? Doesn't matter. I don't care. You just organize it yourself. Just make it neat. I'd come back 10 minutes later and be completely done because I gave him the free rein to do what he needed to do. He didn't feel constrained, and he wasn't afraid to disappoint me by doing something wrong. He felt like he had some room to wiggle, and he excelled. And every time I gave him a job after that, if I gave it to him in loose perimeters, he would do great, work really, really hard, get it done very quickly. Very impressed with the kid. Then Andrew was the polar opposite. If I said to him, all these nails need to be organized, please go at it, I'd come back 10 minutes later, and he'd be sitting there going, but where do you want me to put them? Do you want the small ones here? Do you want the big ones here? What do you want me to do? Do you want these types here, or what do you want me to do? So he'd freeze up. But if I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Here's all these drawers. Here's two sets of little drawers, and I want you to organize all the nails. I want you to size them smallest to largest, left to right. Then after that, you want the screws, smallest to largest, left to right, Phillips. I give him every little detail, and then he was so happy he had all the details. I'd come back 10, 20 minutes later, and he'd be completely done. And he'd be done very quickly, and he was a hard worker and had no problems with this. So here's a practical example of how understanding personality types can affect the way you work with your team. Again, it's not magic, it's not voodoo, it's not astrology, but you shouldn't be making it part of the corporate culture where you're throwing around catchphrases left and right. Yeah, somewhere in between. Understand how that people work differently. Understand that when you understand personality types, certain personality types are motivated differently. Then you can use that to help motivate them, to help encourage them, to help teach them, to help them get them going. That's it. It's not mad, crazy rocket science. It's not voodoo. It's not magic. It just gives you an understanding of how to interact with people. You can figure it out. It gives you a little bit more idea of how to get people on the right track. If there's a constant conflict between two of your people, then talk to them and figure it out. And maybe this means, well, maybe they're two detailed-oriented people who are fighting over the details all the time, and maybe you should separate them. Or something. Just you can kind of figure out where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. And it's a guide. It's a guideline. You shouldn't use it as the end all and be all of everything, nor should you not use them at all. You should use it or use an understanding of personality types. At least use an understanding, because that's free. You can get good understanding for free. It's the internet. You can find good understanding. But so yeah, I don't completely reject personality types, nor test, but nor do I make them the law of the land gold standard either. It's a tool. You can use them. You can use it to help your team, to make your team more effective, etc. So yeah, there you go. I've rambled on for 35, 40 minutes now. I'll let you guys go. You have a great time. Just remember, a lot of things out there can be used either as a tool, can be used as tools when used right. Just be careful to make sure you're just using it right. Don't be afraid of them. Anyway, have a great time. Talk to you next time. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. If you found value in this content, please leave a comment and give us a 5-star rating on whichever podcast platform you use. We're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, and most other podcast platforms. If you would like to support us, you can check out our sponsor links, or if you'd like to support us directly, you can donate or join our membership program at buymeacoffee.com/bootstrap. Of course, it really helps when you share these podcasts with your friends as well. If you'd like to interact with me and other bootstrappers and leaders, you can join us over at our O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast, an Atheoz Business Solutions podcast. For a companion podcast, the Atheoz Business Podcast, which is hosted by Jason St. Clair, past episodes and related blogs, please check out our website at www.atheoz.com, which is at www.atheoz.com or theoz.com. Until next time, I have been your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor.